Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today we got a bit of a different subreddit. I've had a few people asking me to have a look into this one as well. Apparently it's doing the rounds just recently. It's r/TraumatizeThemBack, which says on the subreddit, traumatizing those that traumatized you. Petty revenge, nuclear revenge, malicious compliance, fuck around and find out, and clever comebacks. And the first story that was suggested to me was from La Petite Mort, who says, steal my mail, have fun thinking you are cursed. I hadn't thought of this in years until my daughter brought it up and suggested I post it here. I'm not sure if this is the appropriate tag, so please let me know if another one fits better. I'm looking behind us now across the count of time, down the long haul into history, back in the before times, in the long, long ago. 2020, I'm talking about 2020. At the time I was living in the Midwest and my daughter was living in the Pacific Northwest. She had started getting into haunted dolls, and when lockdown happened, she picked up customizing porcelain dolls to keep herself occupied. I sent her a few old dolls I found at thrift shops, but when I called her to see what she was going to do with them, she told me she never got the package. That's when she told me that porch piracy had become a huge problem in the town. She said that it had always been an issue, but since lockdown had started, it had gotten beyond blatant. And it was an almost guaranteed chance that you wouldn't get your packages unless the mail person directly handed it to you. It got to the point that the thieves would literally follow the mail truck and would be walking up to the porch to steal packages as the mail person was walking back to the sidewalk. This, as you can imagine, annoyed me on a personal level. If I was going to spend my own money sending something to my daughter for her to customize, I damn well wanted her to get it. Not some random mook off the street. I told her I'd think about it and get back to her, as there was a doll I'd found that I thought would be perfect for a horror customization. Plus, I wanted to support my daughter with her art, so I wanted to commission this doll specifically. The other important factors that contributed to this situation are that I'm pagan. I love ancient and fictional languages, and I absolutely love being able to screw with people that deserve it. I spent a few weeks mulling the situation over in the back of my mind and eventually hit on a solution that borrowed heavily from the satanic panic which I had lived through as a kid. Since I wasn't sure that she would actually get the package, I decided to send a backup doll I'd found and planned on sending with the original doll just in case the original doll got messed up in a way that couldn't be fixed. The doll had a cracked face, was missing an eye, had a faded, stained blue silk dress, and the hair was a snarled mess. I found a shoebox that fit the doll with a little room to spare, and got to work. Everything I wrote is approximated because I was an idiot and didn't take a picture before I mailed the box off. Stupid of me. First, I aged some printer paper with coffee, crumpled it up until it was soft, then cut out 6 squarish pieces. I created 2 sigils and drew them on 2 of the pieces, one small, one where the sigil took up most of the paper, and one larger one where the sigil was in the center but had plenty of room around it to write other stuff. The sigils were based on the phrases, fuck off, thief, and this is not yours. I also used a Gallifreyan translator app and created a symbol that translated into, may you perpetually step on Legos barefoot in the dark. The 4th and 5th pieces of paper had random symbols drawn on them, including alchemical, astrological, the symbols from some 70s metal albums, Led Zeppelin in specific, and random shapes I doodled. The last one I used a Klingon translator and wrote out, fuck you, you fucking fuck, both phonetically and in actual Klingon alphabet, in a spiral that filled up the entire space. I took the larger piece with the not your sigil in the middle and wrote phrases cursing them unto the 100th generation. Accused them of preferring goats as sexual partners, etc. In Norse runes, angelic script, and 2 other languages I don't remember off the top of my head. And I burned some of the edges and some small spots throughout the papers. Once I was done with that, I rolled the largest piece into a tube, tied it with black and red ribbons, used wax to seal it, and tied it to the doll's hands over her chest with black twine. I then wrapped 4 of the pieces around the arms and legs of the doll and sealed them with wax, and stuck the last piece, the small sigil, over her face. I used a pentacle wax seal stamp to stick it to her forehead. I wrapped the doll in some ancient tissue paper I'd found in my basement and put it in the shoebox. I added several red, black, grey and green quartz crystals, as well as some pinches of dried herbs and flowers from my altar supplies. I finished the whole thing off with a short note written on torn notepaper that essentially said that I was grateful to get this cursed thing off my hands. That I tried to seal the evil spirit possessing the doll as best as I could, but I didn't guarantee it would work, and it was the buyer's problem now. No refunds, no returns, and if the buyer died, not my fault. I went absolutely cheesy 80s horror movie with the note. It was completely histrionic and overblown. I figured that anyone sensible would think that this was a prank or a prop or some "I'm so dark and spooky" teenager trying too hard to be dark and spooky. But mostly, I wanted to make my daughter laugh, or at least momentarily freak out whomever stole the box. Admittedly, I picked up this doll because it struck me as looking rather creepy to begin with, but all the set dressing fit the doll well. I wrapped the box in duct tape and in brown grocery bag paper, added some more random symbols on the seams and mailed it off to my daughter. The aftermath. She said that she got the notification that the doll had gotten delivered, but when she went to retrieve it, nothing was there. A few hours later, she was sitting in the living room when she heard a loud thump against the door and heard the sound of a vehicle speeding off down the hill. When she opened the door, she found a ripped open and hastily retaped box containing only 2 things. The doll, buried in what looked like 2 full canisters of Morton's salt. She thought that was odd, but forgot to ask about the salt when she texted me to let me know the doll had actually made it. We were talking about the doll last year when she asked me why I'd sent it in salt. I asked her what she was talking about, and after she described how the doll arrived, I told her how I'd actually packaged it up. She was kind of bummed that she didn't get to see it in all of its ridiculous glory, but mentioned that they haven't had a problem with porch pirates since then. So I guess the local porch pirates were so terrified of the curse they might have unleashed on themselves that they've avoided this area since then. I genuinely thought the whole thing was so over the top and cheesy, it would be obvious it was fake. But whomever stole it the first time was so terrified that they had to drown the doll in salt to break the curse. I genuinely hope they step on Legos barefoot to this day. Edited to add. I put this in a comment, but I thought I would add it here because why not? This is my personal headcanon for what happened between the box being stolen and being returned. I picture one of them frantically googling how to break curses or stop an evil spirit, while the other was driving and shouting about how it was all the other person's fault for suggesting they steal packages in the first place. And both of them in Safeway quietly arguing about whether or not table salt would work or if they need kosher salt when something further down the aisle randomly falls on the floor, due to it being precariously stacked on the shelf, then panicking and grabbing 2 canisters of Morton's before fast walking back to the car. In the 10 minutes it takes to drive from Safeway to the house, the driver is reciting every prayer they remember, badly, while the other one is pouring salt into the box and apologizing to the spirit for taking it without permission. Then for months after, any minor inconvenience was blamed on the doll. It eventually becomes a family legend of how everything that's gone wrong for all of them is the fault of this one box they never should have opened. The box, you opened it, we came. Didn't open the box, and what was it last time? Didn't know what the box was, and yet we do keep finding each other, don't we? Yes, I know my imagination is running away with this scenario, and no, I don't think this is what actually happened. But in the absence of any ability to know the truth, this scene makes me laugh. I mean, while the whole scene may not have played out exactly like you said, something similar would have happened. The doll was drowned in salt. They obviously did panic at some point, like, what the fuck? Get rid of it. That absolutely was a panic situation, and it is something that they're going to think about going forward, because if it's enough that they drive back to the place they stole it from, that obviously shit them up pretty badly. Someone suggested after that one, Visually Delicious said, you really have to find out who they were and then put the doll back on their porch. Can you imagine? Holy moly. I really enjoyed the levels OP went to there to get that sort of revenge on them though. But our next story is from Coco, who says, "Okay doc, if you don't care about an open door, then I don't care about covering my boobs. I went in for my annual exam and the nurse gives me the dreaded gown with specific instructions to strip down to nothing and put on the paper robe, open to the front. Just getting up on the table in this garment was stressful. It was tiny and delicate. I could feel it tearing with the slightest pressure. But I did it, and awkwardly held it closed as I sat on the edge of the table, barely covered, waiting for the doctor. Please don't imagine this as sexy in any way. My doctor is a very, very, very old lady, and I'm describing my semi-nakedness because it was embarrassing, an actually physically challenging task to keep the robe sufficiently closed to not be exposed. She bustles in a flutter, door swinging wide open to the hall in open view of the office staff and open exam room, where another patient was waiting, fully clothed. We locked eyes for a moment. It was weird. But I took a deep breath and got over it. We got on with the exam. We realized she doesn't have all of my results. Did a blood draw the week prior. So out she goes, this time holding the door open as she yells at her staff to get her the results. Now, I'm not upset at being naked in front of healthcare professionals, but there's no need for the office staff to see me naked. Plus the other patient is still right there. Hi, I'm naked. We get the results. Moving on, but then a knock at the door. And she opens that motherfucking door wide open again about some bullshit, and I silently snapped. I'm only willing to struggle to keep my nakedness unexposed for so long. And if you don't care about exposing my naked flesh to the office and everyone in it, then neither do I. So I relaxed. My fingers unclenched, I sat comfortably, and I allowed the gown to give way. My boobs were fully out and I didn't give a shit. It was the first and hopefully only time I exposed myself as a way of saying fuck you. It was liberating, and suddenly the doctor was able to keep the door shut and wrap things up. PTA. So this has been fun. Happy that my top ever post is about standing up for myself. It's also been lovely hearing from other brave people who similarly asserted themselves. For the folks who are telling me I was wrong to use my boobs and not my words, I have words for you. Fuck you. Did you forget what sub you're in? It's TraumatizeThemBack, not resolving problems with calm, logical discussion. I rebuke your judgment. I'm proud of my actions. Also a big you are gross to everyone who sexualized me, my boobs in this context. A vote in these comments also makes you gross. As of the edits, one such has 40 plus nasty piggy support. Do better. Please go downvote these comments. Further, I was asked to disrobe completely because part of the exam was a skin check. My old lady doctor is her own boss and works because she is passionate about health. She hugs me when my results improve. She always wants to see new pictures of my baby and tells me stories about her childhood. Her office is a 5-minute drive from my house. She's an ancient, scatterbrained, intelligent, cultured, energetic widow who speaks 7 languages and lives for her patients. My insurance allows me to see specialists without a referral for about the same copay as seeing my GP. So if issues arise, I can go to an expert. I get a new GP one day, but I'll miss this quirky old bird. Finally, thank you for the compliments on my writing and the awards. I taught for 16 years before mumming became my full-time occupation 2 years ago. Writing was always one of my favorite skills to teach. And there were some people saying, you should make a complaint, etc., but fair play to OP. I get the liberating feeling right there. I had something happen to me with not one of those gowns, but I had to put on some of these disposable shorts. Some of you was questioning about what I was doing because I had to go to the hospital some time ago because I've been having some basically some stomach issues. So they wanted to do the old butt camera, and gee whiz, that was an experience, let me tell you. And they obviously wanted to check for like the big C. I tell you right now, there was nothing that suggested it was. I haven't had the full results back as yet, but I wasn't quite as exposed as OP. They gave me these like little, almost, they're not quite paper, a bit, maybe one up from paper that they gave me these shorts that had like a little butt flap on the back. They said, whack them on, wait in this room, we'll tell you when to come through. But when I had to go through, I had to walk through like a waiting room. There was a bunch of people there, and all I could think is people looking at my arsehole. One of the most surreal experiences. And then I was expecting to go into just like a little room with a doctor, camera, up it goes, sort it out. I got to this room and they opened the door. There was like 12 people in there. I was like, what the fuck's going on? They asked if I wanted any of the drugs. I said, nah, I'm all right, because I decided not to have them because I drove there. So you're not allowed to drive after some of the drugs. Doctor comes over, introduces himself, starts cracking on with things with the camera. And he's like, oh, so what job have you got? And I'm just like, is this really the time? I know he's just trying to put me at ease, and I just give the usual answer. I work in sort of like content creation. I never say exactly what it is. And the fucking doc starts asking me for editing tips. Whilst the other one's telling me to roll over this way, roll over the other way. It's like, I've got a camera up my ass right now. Anyway, I've totally gone off on one as usual. I do apologize for talking about my butt camera experience. I will say though, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. If that helps anyone out that's going to be going through that anytime soon. But once again, fair play to the OP of this story. We're going to go to another one from Lyrical Lotus, who says, a co-worker put me on the spot when she saw scars from a past car accident. When I was 17 years old, I was in a very serious car accident that nearly killed me. One of my tires blew while I was driving 50 miles per hour. Speed limit was 55 miles per hour. To school one morning and my car flipped several times off of the road. My seatbelt saved my life, and the fact that I put both arms over my head as my car was flipping saved my face and head from severe damage. As a result, however, the skin on my left forearm was nearly torn off from my fingers to elbow, leaving me with significant scarring. The doctor at one point had suggested plastic surgery, but my family couldn't afford it. I also wanted to see about other options. Luckily, my wounds healed a bit over time on their own with consistent care and some physical therapy. Within a few years, the scars were still visible, but not nearly as grotesque as before. I still felt self-conscious, but people asking me about them was very rare, and if it did happen, it came from a concerned place and was spoken quietly and with respect. As stated earlier, however, I still felt very insecure about them and would often wear sleeves long enough to cover them even in hot weather. Fast forward a few years later, I was in undergrad at university and was working at the library on campus. One of my co-workers, we call her Christine, was the kind of person who would intentionally bring down anyone around her. She was also a bit older than most of us, a non-traditional student, as defined by our university, and would frequently complain about how much she hated anyone under 40. Despite this, I tried to brush off her comments, not let her get to me, and stick to the work at hand. One day at work, we were very busy and had to do a lot of multitasking. I was reaching up to grab something and my sleeve rode up. Christine made this disgusting gasp, like ugh, and shouted, ooh, gross. What the hell did you do to yourself? Your arm is disgusting. Being put on the spot like that made me want to disappear, but I couldn't. I took a breath, looked her square in the eye and replied, oh, my arm. I was in a car accident that nearly killed me, and these scars were from all the glass and debris. And because I was much younger, about 21, and could be petty and passive-aggressive, I added, but thank you for pointing that out. It's nice to be reminded of one of the scariest moments of my life while at work. Christine turned pale and just kind of stood there. Our co-workers stared at her in horror and disgust. The students nearby glared at her and called her a bitch. I went about my workday. Christine never spoke to me again. She ended up quitting a short time later, the details of which I'm unaware, but I often wonder if our interaction that day had anything to do with it. I absolutely love it when people are stopped dead in their tracks and called out for their shitty behavior. Why the fuck did Christine think that was ever acceptable to say something like that in the first place is beyond me, but you handled that perfectly. I would have loved to have been in that space and just watch her face change as everyone around her stared at her for a shitty remark when you called her out for it. Woo-hoo-wee. I'm quite enjoying seeing people get their own back, so we're going to have one more story from White Cherry Rose, who says, sent someone proof my fiance is sick. They asked for it but apparently didn't actually want it. I, 25 female, am engaged to my fiance, Joey, 26 male. He recently had surgery on his leg and hip, but there were complications, and he has been sick and weak since. We try not to ask for help, but this has put a big financial strain on us, to the point where we've spent our wedding savings on his recovery. We were fine with this because if we need to have a courthouse wedding, we're cool with it. We just want him to be healthy. But we did set up a donation page to help with some of the expenses. A friend of mine, Carla, 25 female, donated $10 about a month ago, and I reached out to her to thank her. Last week, we posted an update. Not asking for more money, but just to let people know that Joey has had another setback and the doctors are creating an all-new treatment plan for him. Carla commented publicly and said the following: "I'm beginning to question if he has actually been sick this long, or if you all are just trying to get more money for your wedding. Who takes this long to recover from surgery, especially when you're an athlete?" I said, "I am very offended and appalled that you would accuse us of faking anything. Maybe you're just having a bad day or a moment of bad judgment, but how shamefully low of you." She replied, "I want my donation back unless you can show proof that he's sick, in a hospital bed or sitting in a doctor's office, anything." I sent her $10 to get her off our backs, but I also sent her a video, the proof she asked for. One of the concerns Joey has is that he will get severely nauseous if he eats protein, which is what he's supposed to be doing, and when he overexerts himself, which he does sometimes. I sent her a video of him dry heaving into an emesis bag in the middle of PT. Now, one of his doctors asked us to record his PT so they can see the progression of him not feeling well to hopefully making some adjustments. So I didn't take this video just to send to Carla, but to me, it seemed like solid proof since she was asking for it. She said, "What the hell? I have a metaphobia." I didn't know this, and this just triggered me so bad. I hope you're happy with yourself. I feel like I've been traumatized. I said, "So now you have $10 more to process this trauma in therapy." She just sounded like one of those people that no matter what you would have done, she would have found something to complain about it, instead of apologizing, of course, which, would have been the right thing to do. Now, OP also called them a friend. Clearly not a friend. What friend goes to someone's donation page and starts asking for proof of what they're going through? Absolute sick behavior. Anyway, what do you guys make of this one? What do you make of this subreddit? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.